Welcome back, everyone, to another show here on Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined by David Francisco for another installment of our weekly recaps of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, currently streaming on Disney+. In our previous installments, we talked about episodes 1 and 2, and today we're discussing episode 3, titled The Power Broker. So as it works here, we talk about the episode as it happened in sequence. That way we can get as much of the wonderful story and dialogue and, dare I even say, Easter eggs that are on screen. So that's the bulk of the show. Before that, we give some very spoiler-free observations and takes of how we felt of this episode. And we usually also like to cram in a bunch of anything Marvel related that's happening in the news, as we did so with WandaVision. And so as it happens, there are a couple of those items, including trailers that you might have known about in the past week. So all of that here and more on Red Spotlight number 313. So David, how are you doing today, by the way?
Good.
That is wonderful to hear. We should be doing good, hopefully. You know, a year into the pandemic, hopefully there have been some improvements, and it seems that that's been the case. So, yeah, I think I'm doing good as well. Just a week, alive, but grateful to be alive. So, before we get into the episode of this week, let's start off with a lot of the news that Marvel has been making, and we have the trailer, actually. One that actually dropped, I believe it was the day before this episode is... Well, we're recording this episode of Tuesday of the week. This was dropped, the trailer, Monday. This episode won't be released until Thursday, so I may have just confused everybody with what I'm saying there, but it's been about maybe almost 48 hours since they've released a trailer for the upcoming Disney Plus series Loki, starring, of course, Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. Yeah, look, it is... I can't say this definitively in terms of WandaVision. Not yet with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's winning me over very much so. I mean, it had me from the beginning, really. And then with this trailer and the previous one we saw, or the sneak peek that we got back in November for Loki, I remember when these shows were first announced and just being very unenthusiastic, like aggressively unenthusiastic, because it very much felt like, okay, Disney Plus needs us to make TV shows. We didn't really have any stories for these side characters. We were never going to give them their own movies, so I guess we can use them now for this. And it felt very much like the only reason we were going, or the only kind of value that people were going to place on these shows was the fact that they're technically in the MCU and that they're going to be used to introduce ideas and bigger storylines for the films. So they're basically TV shows that, in theory, were going to be just more commercials for films instead of being their own thing. So that was kind of the biggest groan and annoyance that I assumed, was going to happen when these shows were first announced. And I honestly, look, even as we got closer and closer to 2021, the jury was still out on how these things are going to really, turn out, honestly. And that's a long way of saying that this Loki trailer was pretty great. I was very enthusiastic about the initial sneak peek they showed us back in November, because it felt like it was something new. It felt like we were exploring brand new territory for the MCU. It wasn't just primarily based on Earth. And then with this trailer, yeah, I I'm ready for this. We'll dive into all the things that we can speculate about the trailer, but I have to say, like, I think I'm gonna be proved wrong again with Loki, and thank God, because this looks like a lot of fun, man.
No, yeah, I thought the same thing as you too. I thought these shows were gonna be like filler or something, just kind of like keep us entertained.
Yeah, useless almost, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the other one that I was kind of excited about was Falcon and Winter Soldier, just because I thought, okay, we're gonna get some cool action stuff and all that. But yeah, just the fact that they went so different with WandaVision and everything, like that was so great. And Loki, I was excited for Tom Hiddleston, of course, but I did not expect what we were getting.
No.
And just like the stuff that we saw in the trailer, wow.
Yeah. It has, I think it is also visually stunning. It has a very particular visual style, predominantly in the production design. In all of the sequences that we see, I believe it's the headquarters of what is known as the Time Variance Authority, right? The TVA, I think it's the Time Variance Authority, which is, of course, something that is borrowed from the comics, as most of these things are. But the aesthetic, if you will, I think some people refer to it as very 70s, the offices and then the style of the people who are there. Of course, Owen Wilson's get up and everything. So it's very deliberate. There's also, I think, pieces of it that kind of stick out to you in terms of sound. The beginning of the trailer, especially, where is basically an elevator that's coming in, but you don't really know at first what that noise is like. The music, I have to say, was one of the first things that kind of catches you and kind of was like, ooh, I needed to rewind that. The first opening seconds of that trailer, I had to rewind it a couple of times because I really loved the piece of music that was used. It felt very weird, mysterious, just alien, which is kind of what you want this to be like, because it's something that is another, I guess, entity, a force of beings that exist in this ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe, but their exact design, their exact purpose is still much of a mystery, and Loki is basically co-opted here to serve as an agent on their behalf. And the main storyline is Loki is blamed for destroying the timeline or creating branch timelines because he stole the Tesseract, and so Time Variance Authority is basically in charge of him now and have tasked him to fixing up all of the different branch realities that he created because of that. And that's the show. That's, I guess, the basic premise for what we see here in this trailer. And I think what also kind of catches your eye is the charm that is Loki. That character has always worked, I think, in anything he's been a part of. I think Thor: The Dark World may in and of itself be something worth revisiting every now and then, if not simply because of Tom Hiddleston, especially in the Escape from Asgard sequence. I still think it's a pretty great sequence in that film. But he also had, I think as far as that Loki is concerned, he did complete his arc. He did sacrifice himself, standing beside his brother and his family name, and that was kind of it. And so here we have a situation where we have the Loki from the past, which then ended up becoming a multiverse Loki because he escaped with the Tesseract. And so this is the Loki from Avengers 1. So this is before him, I guess, having to face any real consequences for the actions that he just, unleashed onto the world. And so there's a lot at play here. What I also am finding, continuously humorous is how many Marvel characters that are technically dead end up coming back, but it's not really them. So the death sticks, but it's like a different version of them, right? So we had this with Gamora in Infinity War and Endgame. Now we have this with Loki here. We just had it, I believe, with, technically speaking, there was 3 versions of Vision. The one that died, the one that was resurrected it really wasn't him. Then there was a version that Wanda created. And of course, to say nothing of Coulson, which has come back, I don't know, thousands of times. I even lose track about which version this one is, too. So it's hilarious to me. And I guess Fitz also counts, right? Like, that was technically because he died and then there was another version of Alive. It's like, they're not the same, but they're the same. I love that fine line that we kind of toe here with this. And, I mean, to me, it's worth it because the actors and the characters, I think, warrant their presence. And Tom Hiddleston is as charming as ever. And it just looks like so much fun, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I agree. I actually didn't notice the music that you were talking about. I don't know. I think I was just mostly focusing on what Tom Hiddleston was saying.
You don't seem to notice music all that much, David, so...
No, I mean, when they do, though, that means like the music must be like really good or something. But yeah. But again, like I was saying, like I was mostly focusing on what Tom Hiddleston was saying because I love some of the lines he said. Like,
yeah.
What was it? It's like, gonna need you to confirm and sign up. This is everything you've ever said. It's just like, this is absurd. And just another piece of paper comes out. Sign this too. Like, there's a lot of curious things going on in the show. Like, how do the rules of the time variance work?
Right.
You know, and it's like, what exactly are they going to show examples of other time streams breaking apart? Are they going to bring up Steve Rogers?
See, this is one of the many questions that I have. And I think I also have a lot of questions when it comes to the actual episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier regarding 2 characters and their history. But in this instance, all right, so this is where I'm a little bit confused here. This time variance authority, I'm going to assume, well, I can't even assume anything because I think it is the time variance authority in charge of keeping track of all of the timelines, because if they are, what was the point, or what is the point of Steve Rogers? Why was there so much importance on him having to go back and place the stones? Because the whole idea, for those who need a little bit of help, a reminder here, at the end of Endgame, what Steve Rogers was sent off to do was to return the Infinity Stones back to their proper timelines. That way, the branch realities cease to exist. So this is my little bit of confusion here. Like, shouldn't this problem technically already have been fixed, or is being fixed, because Steve Rogers is doing that? Now, I think that can be true, but in this branch reality that was created because Loki stole the Tesseract, there really is no Infinity Stone to return, because they didn't take one from this branch reality because Loki ended up taking it. So this isn't going to be one of the timelines or one of the branch realities that Steve is going to come into, because Loki has that Infinity Gem already in the Tesseract. So then I think this is where I'm a little bit off then. So is this time variance authority only preoccupied with the reality, or is this time variance authority only within the realms of this branch reality that Loki created, and not, or basically I'm asking is this the only time variance authority, or are there like multiverse versions of the time variance authorities?
I mean, you could possibly say someone else is working with Steve fixing whatever mess they made and all that. But also, though, I think my theory is that Loki spent some time escaping. So like there's some chunk of time between him escaping and when they catch him, and then now he's got to fix those problems. Because the thing though with the Avengers is that they got the stones, but they brought him back exactly where they were, like exactly when they took him. So there's not really creating that many branch realities. So I think they're mostly focusing on the ones that Loki caused because he escaped.
Right, and they show a visual of basically, and they're all putting it on him, so I think the assumption is that through Loki's escape, as the god of mischief seems to do, he has created a bunch of chaos. So, keeping true to his namesake. So I think if that is the case, I'm just going to assume, I'm going to answer my own question. I'm just going to assume at this point then, if we're going to go with what you said, that the Time Variant Authority is only working in regards to this timeline because these are the ones that Loki in particular kind of messed up and he has to go back and fix them. So we're going to go under that assumption. But then that would mean, and this is actually an interesting aspect here, that would mean that this show doesn't necessarily take place within the realms of the traditional Marvel Cinematic Universe, does it?
Probably not.
And that is interesting. That is interesting because a lot of people kind of use that as a barometer to what to determine canon, right? Or what is canon. And I saw this tweet and I laughed my ass off and I wanted to share this with you. You and I have gone back and forth about the whole canon thing when it comes to S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Ultimately, we don't care. It doesn't it doesn't have any kind of bearing on us whether or not we feel how we feel about the show, but I have informed you that I have come across many people on the interwebs, as they say, that are very this show doesn't count because it's not in the MCU, so shut up about it. They're very up in your face about it. So I saw this tweet and I thought it was hilarious. I couldn't find a real name, but her Twitter handle was Love Sarah, so take that for what it was. But she's a frequent person that is defending this from a bunch of trolls. She said, Loki literally created a whole new timeline by stealing the Tesseract in 2012. Something he'll have to deal with on his own TV show. Yet, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. antis, which she calls the people who are always in her face, still find the way to scream that the show isn't canon because they eventually jump in between timelines in season 7. Just, putting that out there to be fair, hey, it's that's kind of a fair point, and something many people are not yeah, Kevin Feige is producing, it is Marvel Studios. Granted, that's something that S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have. But if you want to be technical about it, this really ain't in the MCU proper. It's in the multiverse, I believe. Which I believe we're gonna see a lot more multiverse things happen, I would assume, as these as the events in the movies happen, right? Because I think even though we didn't see the multiverse snap open yet at the end of WandaVision, like many people had suspected, or demanded, whatever your interpretation was, I still am of the mind that by the time we get to the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I literally had to remind myself what the title was because I get myself confused between Far From Home and No Way Home now. And Far From Home, the movie that came out, I was going to say last year. No, 2019. Jesus. At the end of the film, I still am of the mind that at that point, the multiverse has broken down because you see J.K. Simmons, Jameson there. That's what I think happened. So, but that is technically speaking 10 months after Avengers Endgame. So, yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting. In this aspect with Loki, so that I think kind of makes it a little exciting because you don't really know how it's gonna all end up, huh?
Yeah, and I'm just curious, how many Marvel references are we gonna see in the Loki show, and just how many just weird things we're gonna see? I mean, because who knows? Really, I don't know. I just from the trailer, it seems like there's not any Marvel references to the show, really. We see him going through different planets and all that. Maybe references to Thor stuff. but I don't know. And I know people keep putting up that one image of him next to this woman. People are saying that that's Natasha, but I don't think it is, because she looks like. Because for one thing, it's the short hair that like gets to me. I'm like, she didn't have that in Endgame. Sorry, guys. So I don't know.
That's not Natasha. I think from a distance, maybe it could have been. But when you look closely, it's not. And I think, I believe someone had pointed out that I saw earlier that it was one of the characters that was frequently, shown throughout the trailer. So no, it also wouldn't really make much sense. What connection would Loki have to Natasha? Why?
Yeah, it looks like they're having a simple conversation. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was it. Like initially maybe, but no, I think that's not necessarily I think what's happening on that screen. But yeah, overall, it looks great. Can't wait to see it.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, Black Widow had a trailer. Had a new trailer since they officially planted their flag for July, theaters and Disney Plus. They recut a new trailer, which is really difficult for them because like they had already done like 2 or 3 over a year ago, because they thought they were going to be out a year ago, and then that didn't happen. So they had to put more money in a marketing campaign to remind people, hey, for reals this time, no matter what happens, we're going to come out. They did a new trailer, and look, none of the trailers for this movie have really particularly excited me. This last trailer, I did enjoy the focus on characters, in particular with Natasha and then her sisters, and then I think David Harbour, who's playing, I guess, her de facto dad, it seems. And that's really what I'm most curious to see here. So this is a film that, again, I want this to do well, but I want this to be good more than I want it to do well. Like I want a quality film, because I think that this is a movie that Marvel really should have made years and years ago. And honestly, they really should have done this. I don't know why they waited so long. You had to, it kind of defies logic. Scarlett Johansson was leading a bunch of action blockbusters while at the same time being in many of these Marvel films. So I don't understand. And she drew a crowd. So I don't understand what it was that it took them a long time to do a Black Widow movie. And then you wait. And I feel like, I think things are different now because of the pandemic and we have a changed world. But if you would just go back at the beginning of last year, there are many people who are very unenthused with watching a Black Widow film, if only because the character died in Endgame. And so the idea of watching a prequel to a dead character doesn't necessarily generate much excitement off fans, or movie-going audiences. So that's why in many ways it was just kind of unfortunate timing that they took them so long to make this movie. It also just seems like small potatoes, quote unquote, in comparison to a lot of the other big projects that Marvel is doing. I even got the impression that Marvel themselves really weren't doing a whole much to sell this movie. And I kind of hope it kind of ends up being, instead of it just being like a filler story, I really hope this movie is, I think the best possible outcome is that it's smaller, but it's more intimate, and it spends more time, fleshing out these characters, in particular and giving Natasha Romanoff the swan song, this theme of unfinished business. And Scarlett Johansson's an amazing actor. I've loved Natasha in all of these movies, and I just, honestly, as a fan of her character, I really do hope this movie provides that sense of closure. That, I think you and I are kind of on a similar board with this. Like, Peter and Kyle, who are also members of our panel here on Red Spotlight, have a very a polar opposite opinion on how Natasha's arc was handled in Endgame. You and I, though, differ greatly from that, and felt that it was a great arc for her. But there still remains the whole issue of closure because of the nature of the film and the structure of the film. Many would say there wasn't the time to really provide any sense of closure for her character. In which case, I think they also think Marcus and McFeely, the writers of the film, did throw out in their audio commentary, well, this film that we're talking about here, Black Widow, is supposed to provide that in a much broader sense, hopefully, for the character. And I think this legitimately may be the last time we see Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff. So I don't mean to have high expectations. I don't expect this to be a great film. I would hope that I'm wrong and that I really enjoy it, because I really do. I've championed the idea of this movie, and I also love this character. And I think this last trailer perhaps made me the most optimistic that I could be in comparison to the previous trailers that I don't even remember from a year ago. What do you think about all this, David?
No, yeah. I do think this movie is going to be a bit more intimate, like you just said, especially because Florence Pugh is going to take up the mantle of Black Widow and all that. Yeah. So there's definitely going to be some good dynamics between the two of them. And I guess
she's also an amazing actor, too.
Oh, my God. For sure. It's like, she's a
Go see Midsommar and Little Women.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think they're both really going to be a standout in the movie. The trailer itself, I mean, you got some new shots for sure and everything, but it just doesn't feel as new as the other two.
There was also a lot of padding. In the beginning of the trailer, it was like a bunch of clips from her past appearances in movies, you know?
Mm-hmm. But, I don't know, but I do like how they still try to keep as much of a mystery to the movie as to like what's going to happen and all that. But ultimately, though, I'm kind of happy that Marvel really tried to like delay it as much as they could, and not just like throw it in on Disney Plus, because they could have easily just like been like, put it for free on Disney Plus and everything. But no, I like that they really try to wait for it to be in theaters again, in theaters. So, but yeah, again, the trailer, not that much new, but I've been excited about it from the beginning, just to kind of, for her to get her own movie and everything. And I don't know, for me, it's just easier to kind of go, okay, takes place before Endgame, whatever. I'm not like you or others kind of going like, who cares about this? Or, I mean, I'm not saying you don't care anything, but yeah, I'm just a bit more excited about it, I guess, than others.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to it a lot more now than I would be if I didn't live through an entire pandemic. I'll tell you that. And I have to think, and I think we've discussed this before on some other episode. With it being early July, I have to think that's going to be the next movie that we're going to go out ourselves to go watch in a theater. Now, I can't speak for you, but I think I've discussed it with some of us who are almost fully vaccinated. And by that time, the expectation is all of us will be fully vaccinated. And if that is the case, I'm gonna go. I am gonna go.
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, no, I'll be fully vaccinated by then, so I'm definitely gonna go for Black Widow.
At that point, there really aren't any other excuses. I know that not everyone's gonna get vaccinated. I know there'll be the anti-vaxxers, but you know what? You just gotta have faith in the vaccines themselves. And if the people that want to kill themselves, let them kill themselves. I'm done reasoning with them at this point. And I'm done letting them dictate when I choose to leave my house or not. And once I am fully protected, I'm gonna plan to take advantage of some of those things. And I'm still gonna be distanced and still gonna be safe whenever I go out. But like, hey, it's a year. And we got to enjoy this life while we can. Of course, I wouldn't be saying it if there were no vaccine and things were still awful, but thankfully, that isn't the case. And so I think that's the film we're going to go see first when this all goes down. All right, a couple of other things as far as some metrics to use here in terms of how some of these Marvel shows have performed. WandaVision, we talked about how it was the biggest show in the world according to FAIRE Analytics, and that may very well be the case. It felt that way. Nielsen is doing some streaming ratings, as we've been talking about them invariantly in the last couple of weeks. And they take a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, to really release the numbers on how something performed over a weekend. So think back to the week that WandaVision debuted its series finale. Feels like a lifetime ago at this point. But they just released those numbers, as a matter of fact. And it turns out that it was the number 2 most watched show during the week. According to Nielsen streaming charts, it came in behind a show called Ginny and Georgia, which you can catch on Netflix. In fact, in the top 10 that week, Netflix had 9 of the 10 spots, Disney Plus being the other with WandaVision. This is in the US, mind you, not worldwide, so it's a bit of a distinction. And then as far as worldwide is concerned, I have some more updated numbers as far as Disney Plus is concerned. The source coming from what's on Disney Plus, and Marvel has once again captured 3 of the top 10 spots. I believe this is one of the days out of the week. I'm not going to be that specific about it because, I mean, I don't even remember, but this is what the chart said. At number 1 was The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is, again, a reminder, worldwide Disney Plus. Number 2 was The Simpsons. Number 3, The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. 4, The Mighty Ducks. I think that's the new series. 5 is WandaVision. 6 is The Mandalorian. 7 is a show called Bluey. I don't know of it off the top of my head. 8 is Jessie, the Disney Channel series. That'd be Ryan. 9 is Star Wars The Clone Wars. And 10 is Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, number 1, number 5, and number 10 for Marvel worldwide here for Disney Plus. So, that's how that's doing. And so, yeah, yes.
I was just gonna say I'm really liking the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, are you? I haven't heard much about it, but how many episodes are there now? 2?
Just 2 now. But like, I'm liking the story. It's cool.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm happy. You don't seem to be alone based on these numbers, at least around the world. So there is that. All right. Well, David, why don't we get into this review? First and foremost, let's start with you, David. What did you think of episode 3, Power Broker?
It was good. I actually really like the action here a lot. The other two, like, I mean, it was cool and all. You got the wings, you got super soldiers and all that. But this one, like, they kept it really grounded and all that. So it was really cool. Zemo, giant surprise.
Wow.
Honestly.
Wow.
Like, holy shit. And I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah, I just didn't expect to get that character in this show and all that. No. But yeah, all 3 of them, they're dynamic. It was great. It was really interesting. But overall, I mean, it was just a good episode. We're still moving through the plot kind of slowly. But I feel like, once we get towards maybe to the second to the last episode or the last episode, like, it's all gonna like kick in and hopefully everything gets brought up well. Yeah.
I really liked this episode. I thought it was another strong installment of the series. I was a big fan of the first 2 episodes, and this one was just a lot of fun. Every single minute of it for very different reasons. Easily the most entertaining episode so far, I think, from that standpoint. I agree with you, actually. I think, look, the action in the first 2 episodes was visually impressive. You could definitely see the dollar signs they threw at those things. But there is something, I think, more, to me anyway, that I think that is more appealing about grounded hand-to-hand combat. And we got some stuff here that I thought, anyway, was pretty wow. With one character in particular, I thought she really showed her worth, didn't she? And then as far as Zemo is concerned, I don't know what to say, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
I may have some questions in the back of my mind about, is this really the same person we knew? I don't think it is. I don't care. This is so great either way. So, hysterical. Oh boy. Location. Which reminded me of a different franchise. So there's a little section in the episode that reminded me a lot of John Wick. I don't know if it was just me.
Some people said that too. And apparently, I don't know if it was the writer of John Wick or the guy who directed it worked on this episode.
I understand that the writer of this episode has written screenplays for films, action films. I don't think it's John Wick, but I think it's... I mean, I don't know, quite frankly.
Okay. We didn't do our research here, but like, no. I don't know. I could have sworn I heard someone from John Wick who worked on this episode, but...
Well, if it's the case, then it definitely shows, doesn't it? A lot of I think with me, this episode, it was so enjoyable, highly entertaining, but it also made me ask a lot of different questions about the history of the MCU. And I've got some thoughts. Thoughts about it. However, from a critical standpoint, I am just the tinsiest bit nervous in terms of, this is episode 3 of 6. This is the halfway point. When this episode finished, I was like, okay, we only have 3 episodes left to kind of resolve everything here. But it doesn't even feel like we're at the halfway, but we should be at the halfway point, and yet we technically are. So what gives here? I don't mean to be harping on this, but it's becoming a little, I don't want to say clear. I'm not sure that's clear yet, but it's beginning to get a little. Give me a second. My brain is rewiring in real time. I'm trying to think of the right words. I'm starting to feel if maybe we needed more episodes than 6. Like maybe 9, maybe 10. Because when this episode finished, I was of the feeling that this is a great episode. But it feels like I'm watching a 13-episode season, or I should be watching a 13-episode season rather than a 9-episode or much less 6-episode miniseries. So there's this constant, nagging in the back of my mind that's making me wonder if maybe this needed more because of, again, I say that now as we're watching it in real time. And what may very well be the case is when this thing is all said and done, they didn't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks a little bit like that now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard speculation that they kind of probably got to end it on a cliffhanger. Like, not everything here is going to get resolved. You know, they want to keep it maybe ambiguous, kind of make your own decision about, you know, who is the bad guy in this, should they do with the shield, I think the one for sure thing is that Sam might want to take up the mantle of Iron Man. But
Captain America?
Iron Man. Oh my god. What the hell? I don't even know why I thought about him. Captain America. Of Captain America. What the hell? Better. Because, I mean, it does seem like they're almost towing the line with the flag smashers of, like, you know, are they doing something good or are they doing something bad? Because so far there only seems to be one bad egg in the group. So I don't know.
I will say, if that is the plan to leave off with a sort of cliffhanger, I have to think that this particular show, more so than Loki, and, well, no, Loki may, not out of the question, but more so than WandaVision for sure. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is like the one show that you can see it lasting multiple seasons. So a season 2 may not be out of the realm of possibility here.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something. I have to think maybe that, I don't know, like it just feels like these episodes indicate a longer season, but you can't really do that, I feel, with the price tag then. They must be spending a lot of money on these episodes. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see where this all goes. So, David, you're going to be our guide today in starting us off with how the episode begins in sequence. I think there is a montage. Not a montage, but there's like a commercial. A little bit of a WandaVision callback here. Is a commercial that starts us off.
Yeah, it's a commercial. Basically, I guess the program, the GRC,
the Global Repatriation Council.
Mm-hmm. Basically, those are the people that get helping out the people who were brought back from the snap, kind of rebuild their life again.
They call it the blip.
Yeah, to rebuild their life again. But then right away, though, you see a car with the GRC logo, and you're seeing something different than what was shown in the commercial. But you see U.S. agent. I'm not calling him Captain America.
As you should very well not.
Breaking into the facility where the Flag Smasher stayed. But they're all gone. They don't find anything. But except for that one guy that I guess hosted the Flag Smashers. And he's just like, fuck you guys. And just, honestly, I found it funny. But that guy, he just spits at U.S. agent's face. And his reaction, oh my god. It just proves even more like, you're not Captain America, bitch. But yeah, he basically like goes, do you know who I am? And the guy says, well, we all thought, I know who you are. I don't care. But yeah, it was great. That little bit.
I loved every second of that sequence so much. He is a little bitch, isn't he? I mean, cause do you know who I am? Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, okay. But that came after the spit, and I'm gonna tell you, the spit felt so good. If there's a Kyle Lira out there listening, which he doesn't, but if he is, he probably is thinking inappropriately of what I just said. I don't care. It felt so good to see someone spit on that smarmy face of his, and then have that little bitch reaction of like, "Do you know who I am?" And oh my god! And I don't know who the actor was, but the delivery. I mean, he didn't miss a step. He was like, "Yeah, I know, and I don't care." Just destroyed.
No hesitation, literally no fear, and it was great. But they thought it was the mission was a bit of a failure. U.S. agent and Battlestar start talking, and just kind of like try to think what to come up next. But I guess the U.S. agent decides like, let's just follow Sam and Bucky. I guess like follow their lead. And so it cuts to Sam and Bucky in prison, about to meet Zemo. Bucky decides to go in alone, and what I expected happened as soon as he walks in. Zemo starts saying the words and everything, but Bucky's good. The words have no effect on him, which is great. But yeah, I guess. Bucky tries to explain to him what's going on and everything, and I mean, I guess they try to make somewhat of a deal. It basically just leads to Zemo wanting to make a deal. Like, I mean, if you want information about me, you know what to do. And then I think it just cuts to Sam and Bucky leaving the prison. They talk about it, and this is where the whole episode changes for me, because I thought we were going to have like this long ass conversation about, oh, should we let him out? We can't let him out. No,
because I remember you were saying last week like they're not gonna break him out. Like, really?
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, I mentioned like I really hope Bucky doesn't break him out because he's been pardoned. It's gonna make him a criminal again, but. No, he does it. And I mean, I didn't really think about it much, but I heard one review of the episode, someone saying like Bucky's kind of desperate to finish this mission because he doesn't want these super soldiers running around causing harm, especially because he himself is a super soldier, and it's a personal thing for him. I didn't really think of it like that, but I guess it makes sense. But again, like I was saying, but it was going to happen, and I thought we were going to have like a long sequence of them trying to break him out or everything. Nah, it's done like that. And everything. It's like Sam doesn't even know like
it
the
was
whole thing
that easy. It's like you almost think to yourself, man, if it was that easy, why didn't you just break out sooner, Zemo? Like it seems like, I know he needed somebody on the outside to instigate this, but like it seemed ridiculously easy to get out of that prison.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I kind of like to think that because of the blip, security went down. Like, he's not gonna do no harm on anyone, and just security just wasn't that well. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I don't know how I feel though. Like of just skipping the prison break sequence, just because. I mean, I'm used to seeing that of like this whole long process of them breaking out. But I mean. Yeah, this is the third episode, so it makes sense to just skip it.
It's the third episode out of 6. There just wasn't the time to really, especially because like this moves a lot. Like there's a lot of things that they need to get to, as we saw at this episode. So yeah, I imagine that wasn't on the table. Although, like, I don't know, I kind of appreciated the hilarity of it. Like, oh yeah, we're not gonna go through this whole drawn out breakout sequence. We'll just do it in like a couple of seconds, and we'll use it for comedic effect,
Although I guess it makes sense because at the end of Captain America Civil War, Cap literally breaks into the most secure facility in the
quote
world.
unquote
like,
secure.
Yeah. And like he's able to do it seemingly kind of easy. Like there's no bruises in him. He
just walks in there.
He just walks in. So I guess it makes sense that Bucky could do something like that too, to just a regular prison. So
this is a prison that was floating in the middle of the ocean, mind you, and Steve just walks in.
Yeah. So it makes kind of sense. But yeah, Zemo just he walks in and Sam's just like, what the hell? It's like, get the fuck out or something. Like, we got to take him back to prison and everything. But they convince him, and
couple of things here. Yeah, so the whole notion is that Zemo is valuable in this situation because he dug into all of the secrets of Hydra, and so he would know more than most where exactly to look into. And that's why Bucky was so hell-bent on breaking him out of there. Let me see here. So, like, this whole super soldier thing, it is very personal, obviously, for him. You also have to think, like, you know, the fact that there are super soldiers around really also, I think, devalues how special Steve was in the first place. And you also would have to assume that the fact that there are super soldiers, modern day super soldiers are running around, and there really are kind of making a mockery of what, you know, Steve stood for also. So there's a lot of things I think at play here. You know, for Bucky especially, and wanting to fix this issue, which is not the only pressing issue. Of course, he wants to get that damn shield back. A lot of people want to get that shield back, so there is that issue. And yeah, Zemo basically is kind of where we left him up until, you know, I think what you're about to get to. But overall, I kind of just assumed that they would break him out because I don't know where you would go after that. And also because of the trailers where we did see him not in prison. So that kind of was the assumption. But I thought it was hilarious that, you know, Bucky just did this. And then he was like trying to sell it to Sam as a hypothetical. So suppose this happened. And then when all of this kind of ended, walks in Zemo, and Sam's like, what the fuck did you do? Did you forget that he killed King T'Chaka? The Wakandans didn't forget about it. No, they didn't. As we'll see later on. But yeah, it sets up an interesting dynamic. And honestly, like, I thought the rest of it was going to be a whole bunch of bickering, and, you know, it wasn't. It was actually pretty interesting dynamic to see, I have to say. But yeah, continue with what you were saying next.
Well, I forgot to mention, I like one thing Bucky tried to say to reason with Sam, in that he goes like, oh wait, I mean, Zemo hates super soldiers. I mean, like really hates them, so he has some kind of code that he's going to be fixated on this mission and not just go off. And like, I remember that. I think that was a cool reason. But yeah, they agreed. Now they're all in agreement to work together, and he basically just kind of starts talking about the underground world. Zemo is talking about the underground world and everything. And they're in this garage with all these nice cars and everything. And the whole time I'm like, where are they at? Like, who owns these cars? Like, this is really cool and all. And then you see that Zemo knows, like, what's inside these things. You see the purple mask and everything. That's cool. And it's his. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then it cuts to the next scene, and they're in this fancy ass jet.
They're getting on a jet, and then Sam's like, so you're rich now?
It's like, no, you've been rich this whole time. He's like, yeah. I'm a baron. Like, I was like, wait, did they never call him Baron Zemo in Civil War?
No.
Oh my god, yeah, that was like my thought. Like, oh my gosh, they never called him, didn't they? And so again, this whole thing just changed my perspective of Zemo, because I thought he was gonna be like all gloomy and everything, like I lost my family and blah blah blah, and just kind of like,
that's how he was in Civil War.
Yeah, and like I thought they were gonna show him, like, you're gonna see him constantly thinking of ways to like get rid of them, get away from them, or
right,
possibly kill them and everything. But nah, he's like a pretty chill dude.
yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just a complete surprise for me that he's just a rich, chill person. What did you think?
It wasn't just that. Like, he seems to be well connected, not just in terms of wealth, but also like with resources, with people in the shady underground. I mean, he knows exactly where to go. We'll talk about that place later, but it makes you think, well, this is not at all the person I remember at all from Civil War, because this is a guy who was, I think we were told that he was a former Sokovian military. He was away during the events of Age of Ultron. His family was killed in the Battle of Sokovia. And then that's what kind of, made him fall down this pit of despair to where he hunted down Hydra members, found as much evidence as he could, and then destroyed the Avengers. And again, this is technically the person kind of responsible, if not single-handedly, for giving Thanos the win in Infinity War, when you think about it. So there is that out there. And yet, oh yeah, he's rich. What? And he's also kind of this supervillain, and that everyone knows his face, and like, wait, what?
I mean,
I'm going to... yeah, go ahead, David.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to... maybe you can rationalize this by saying, like, okay, in between Age of Ultron and Civil War, which is 2 years, more or less, from the point that Zemo lost his family, he descended into where he is now, and he began to be a professional criminal, I guess. And then he met all these people who then connected him to, like, former Hydra agents to get this information. But you're right. Like, he was not called Baron in the movie. He's now a Baron, which is, that is his character in the comics, right? Like, so it just seems like this is almost a completely different character from the one that we were sold in Civil War. Although there is maybe a little bit of wiggle room there where you can, like, squeeze in, like, well, technically he wasn't a bad person until the family died. Mm-hmm. Because I think when you're watching Civil War, it's like, oh, this is just a guy. And he lost his family as a result of the Avengers fighting. And he wanted revenge. When you're looking at that movie, I'm not seeing this professional criminal or this supervillain. And yet when you're seeing him here, he's like with the swag and everything and all this like expensive clothing and this mask. And it's like, who are you?
Yeah.
you're not who this isn't the person I thought you were. I mean, more or less. So that's why I was a little like, wait, that's different. And some people were like, well, I guess it could be considered somewhat of a retcon. If it is, I don't care. The fun nature of it, I think, was more than enough to do it. But I don't know. Like, when you think back at how you saw Zemo interact in this, you have every right to not expect it because of what you saw before, which is what you were saying.
Yeah. So, quick question. He lost his family in the Battle of Sokovia?
Yeah.
I thought it was the Battle of New York.
He's from Sokovia, David.
I know, but like I thought they I don't know, they just happened to move to New York or something. I don't know.
No. The way that it goes down is, I think it's toward the last scene where he's talking with T'Challa. My family was outside the city. They're miles from harm. And then, buildings were on them. No, this was Ultron, Sokovia, where he lost his family.
Weird. Okay, whatever. Either way, he lost his family. But I think, actually, then that makes more sense then. Because in those 2 years, I think a way to rationalize like how different a person he is. For one thing, where we're seeing him, that is when like he is executing his plan. Like, this is the moment, nothing can go wrong in this moment, so he is determined. So that's one way we see him differently from the movie and the show. So if, when he's trying to plan things out accordingly, he's trying to like gain some knowledge of Hydra and everything, he has to play a certain character maybe to get along with the criminals, but also to not be pushed around. So, and I think this is what that character is in the show. That's him being, it's intimidating, but also kind of like, not too afraid of him, I guess, in a way. So that's one way to rationalize how he is in the movie to the show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anyway, what else were you asking?
I don't know.
Okay.
At the moment, but yeah. No, I think I see what you're saying here, and I agree. You could definitely rationalize that. So, but no, that whole exchange in the airplane was hysterical. You have like all these callbacks to this list. So not only was it like a notebook that looked almost exactly like Steve's, it was exactly the same notebook that Steve used, that Sam had gave Steve it, I think. I'm not sure if Sam gave it to him, but whatever it was. Steve was using that to write things down that he had missed in the time that he had, been asleep. And he talked about how he recommended the Trouble Man soundtrack, which was called back directly to Winter Soldier. And then he asks Bucky how he liked it. And Bucky's kind of whatever on the whole thing. And then it sparks this hilarious outrage. Like, you didn't like it? And then this is kind of, you have Zemo of all people in this conversation. And it kind of just adds to the hilarity where it's like, it's a masterpiece, James. Complete. It captures the African-American experience. And it's so inappropriate coming from him to where Sam acknowledges, like, he's out of line, but he's right. This is just, I was laughing so hard when I saw this.
Yeah, but like I said, like, he seems like a chill dude in that scene. No, but I like the way it started off because he was kind of like...
Oh, one thing I want to say, I love that Zemo has his own Alfred. That was hilarious.
Oh my god, right? And I love their exchange too. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, I think the food's gone bad, sir, but I'll go check. And it's like, if it does pass a smell test, just give it to them. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I like how the conversation started because he was just like, I'm sorry, my mind is distracted. It's just, I'm reading this fascinating book. And then he reads one of the names in Bucky's list and it's just like, oh shit. And he really hit a nerve with Bucky right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like it's already starting like, oh man, he's clever, he's cunning and all that. But yeah, then it leads to the Marvin Gaye conversation. And it's hilarious.
They get into this, since they're basically on the topic of Steve in a sense. Zemo does go off in a little bit of a diatribe about how they put people like Steve onto pedestals. Basically saying that they focused too much on their accomplishments and their positive attributes and not enough of their failings or their drawbacks as people. So, yeah. I don't know where that's going to go necessarily, but that was just an interesting comment that he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it also it's a reminder, like, look, this is a bad guy, but he has his own moral code, ethical code of sorts that makes him a really interesting person. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you had mentioned earlier that, look, the only reason he's doing this and actually wants to be with them because he believes in the mission, like, look, there shouldn't be any super soldiers around. That's just not right.
Mm-hmm.
So after the plane, they arrive in yes.
There's a little scene before that.
Oh, okay.
It cuts to the Flag Smashers, and they're in some, I think it was like a refugee camp or some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a small scene, but basically the redheaded girl, someone calls to her and it's like, hey, you gotta see this person. We don't know who it is, but she's walking around the facility and then she's just with someone who's on the bed, very sick. Seems like she might die or something. But, I think it's just a little scene to kind of like, I guess, to show you what their mission is all about. Oh, and what the vaccines were for, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's not entirely clear.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing there based on that sequence, I think it becomes more evident when the episode is over about what exactly this whole thing was. It also ties back into the opening commercial from this episode with the Global Repatriation Council, which is the entity that the Flag Smashers are against. And for some seemingly valid reasons, as we'll get to that point. So it was a very important sequence, especially for Carly Morgenthau, who was our main antagonist here, who so far really hasn't come across as a stereotypical bad guy. Like, she's come across somewhat sympathetic in her ideals, perhaps, although that kind of goes out the window later on in the episode. So yeah, not much I can say there until we get to the big moment there.
Yeah.
So then we go to Madripoor, which I had never heard of. This location that exists in the Marvel comics, and apparently Marvel Studios didn't have the rights to even use this place or say the name until Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, and all of the remaining rights of the X-Men that they didn't have are all back with them. So interesting place here. And it also is just like, how they talk about it, how Zemo and Bucky talk about it, how it was it originally started as a pirate sanctuary back in the 1800s. It reminds me a lot of the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. They're in Singapore, or there are other sanctuaries in the Pirates films like Tortuga. It reminded me very much of that. And then it kind of evolved into what it is now. And when we stumble into it, it's something that's kind of straight out of John Wick, more or less.
Yeah, basically. But again, you get a funny little dynamic. And like right away, Sam's the one complaining about his disguise, I guess. Going like, man, what the heck is this? It looked like a pimp. And Zemo's just like, only an American would think you look like a pimp because of the suit. It's like, you actually look really nice. It's fine. But yeah, they get into a car. They're driving into the city, and like right away, it's all looking shady. They're being followed or escorted by people, motorcycles, and all that. And they end up at a club, I guess. And then, it goes through all the whole criminal underground type of stuff where, sorry. Yeah, he explains, Zemo explains to them, like, they have to stay in character the entire time. Bucky has to be the Winter Soldier in this situation, and Sam has to be the Smiling Cat, I think that's what his name?
Tiger.
Oh, Smiling Tiger.
Yeah.
Whatever. And apparently
Tiger's a cat in a way.
Yeah. And apparently the Smiling Tiger is a character in the comics. It's like an actual looking tiger person and all that. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, they get to the club, and you're kind of getting to the tropes of it. They go there. Sam tries to be all tough and everything, but it's just, you could tell it's not working that much on people. But it leads into this funny part, though, where the bartender in the club is going like, "Oh, you want your usual?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And you think it's just going to be a drink, but no, the guy brings out a snake, cuts it open, it does, I don't know, takes out the venom, I think, and everything. So
it's not just the venom, it's like an organ or something, like it was disgusting.
Yeah, for sure. And so I was just like, I can't do it. But he drinks it. It's funny. And then I don't know, it just kind of leads into I guess the security guards causing some trouble and everything. And this is kind of like it was a bit of a scary part for me, I guess. But Zemo, he's really trying to like utilize the Winter Soldier in the situation, and basically just trying to make Bucky do whatever he wants. And it really almost messed up because, Bucky's trying really hard not to be the Winter Soldier, and he just happens to be in this situation. And I don't know from you, but like for me, it did almost seem like he was hating it. It was really bothering him to be this person again, almost.
Well, yeah. It is almost. It's not the easiest thing trying to really pick up what exactly Bucky is feeling, because most of the time he just has the same look on his face. So there's that. But you're like, yeah, it really, because it kind of throws out this whole like Zemo is putting out this theory that it didn't take him long to get back into the swing of things, as it were, for it. No, there's always a little bit of ambiguity in terms of like how much control Bucky has over his mind. That's kind of been his thing for most of this. But yeah, like it wasn't the impression, at least that he was, to me, that he was enjoying this. I think he was very much hating the fact that he was doing this, but he very much had to commit to doing so. If not, they wouldn't really advance to the next person they need to see for more information. So, but it is also like just, even though he's not enjoying it, it also is just, I would imagine, very, very unhelpful for his mental state to be there. Really. Yeah. So there is that situation, but no, I mean, Zemo might have been taking some kind of pleasure in utilizing the Winter Soldier as a personal bodyguard, but to be fair to him, the reasons were very much reasonable for why he needed to do it in those moments, because these are lowlifes that kind of, to borrow a coin of, to borrow some words from Carly Morgenthau, this is the only language they understand. In this context, I think this is appropriate. When she used it, I thought it was kind of abhorrent, but so there's that.
No, yeah, it's for a good reason, but I don't know. It's just, for me, it kind of sucks that he had to be in that role.
Yeah.
But I like that Sam was worried about him the entire time. It would cut back and forth with him looking at him, kind of being like, he's up or something, which is something Captain America would do. Okay, deserves it. But they talked to Selby, who they were looking for in the beginning. And yeah, they're just trying to exchange information, trying to see where the super soldier came from. Super soldier serum came from. And yeah, they got the information they needed. I think they got the name. I can't remember it, but and everything. But it all goes to shit because Sam forgot to turn off his phone or put it on silent or put it in airplane mode or whatever you do.
Did this annoy you? Because I have seen a bunch of reviews, both on paper and on video, that really criticize the writing in this sequence, that Sam would be so forgetful to have put his phone on silence. This bothered you, I take it?
A little bit, just because, a phone call is what ruins the whole mission and everything. Like, it wouldn't be because, hold up, like, aren't you Sam Wilson? Or aren't you the Falcon? Or something like that? Like, someone will recognize him. Just, like, get someone, some bodyguard looking at their phone and going, hold up. So, I don't know. I feel like he could have done some other things. But yeah, I mean, I like the exchange happening in the phone call. So Sam's sister calls him. She's just like, she's like, wants an update, I guess, of the situation of their bank and everything.
Yeah.
But Sam's trying to sound all hard again. He's like, yeah, I'll deal with the bank. And it's like, once.
And he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't that she called him Sam.
Yeah, she called him Sam. And then, yeah. But as everything was about to go to shit, Selby gets shot. And some people were confused. It's like, oh, who did it? It was clear to me that it was Agent Carter. I don't know. I kept seeing that. It's like people were kind of like, oh my gosh, who shot her? And it's like, it was Agent Carter. I don't know how else to put it. But they make it out, and then this is when it really starts to get like John Wick, where everyone in the city gets text messages like $1,000 to the people who killed Selby or something like that, and then they're just running around the city. But luckily, Agent Carter saves them again, and and then they're just safe for the moment. I almost skipped over it, but they had this long conversation and basically giving us an update on her situation, and so basically,
go ahead, David, continue.
Basically, Agent Carter got left behind. Really, they don't say if she got blipped or not, or snapped away, whatever. But yeah, because of what she did in Civil War, stealing the wings and the shield, she became a criminal. Or what is it, like basically a terrorist to the country?
Well, like Sam said in the previous episode, that Sharon was branded an enemy of the state.
That's a better word. But yeah, and so she was a bit pissed off. It's like, why are you guys breaking him out? I literally became an enemy of the state because we tried to bring him in, and I tried to help you guys out. Don't know what you're doing. But she helps them out in the end.
A lot of things here, though. Let's take a little bit of a pause break here. So you said that it's obvious that it was Sharon that killed Selby. Mm-hmm. Are you then... Because if that's the case, she didn't tell them she was the one that killed Selby. So she's keeping things from them. That's the case. Do you feel, as some others have already been suspecting, that Sharon is none other than the famous power broker here?
I didn't think that. I didn't think that at all, honestly.
A lot of people have been connecting the dots and thinking that she's the one because... So we saw a quick glimpse of her at the bar. She was walking out. She put a hood over her head. Remember that? Mm-hmm. You're the only person so far to have, like, to say that, like, she was the one that was directly responsible for killing Selby. And I think it would track because we also see her as Sam, Zemo, and Bucky running away with a sniper gun, and then also killing some guys who are about to kill them. But a lot of people have been theorizing that she is the power broker because of, I guess, her general proximity to the events that went down, and then also to the apartment she had, or the palace basically that she has. And yeah, so we'll put a pin in that, but let's kind of stick to what you said there about Sharon revealing herself and kind of what she's been through. Yeah, I'm very upset. I'm very upset, and for a lot of different reasons. And I know ultimately the reason was, well, she was a character that kind of there was no room for in the movie, and so there really wasn't an excuse to come up with, like, okay, where is she? She's just gone. Now we're here, and then this is just legitimately sad. So she took the shield and the wings. She took them to Captain America in Civil War. They had a kiss. She took off. And then he took off. And we're supposed to believe that ever since then, she's been on the run the entire time. Now let's keep a couple of things in mind here. So she's been, quote unquote, on the run. Literally at the same time that Steve, Natasha, Sam, and Wanda were on the run together for those 2 years between Civil War and Infinity War. Let's catch up here. Group A was on the run. Sharon was on the run at the same time. Why weren't they on the run together?
Mm-hmm.
If they knew Sharon was around out there somewhere because basically what she did to help them, why didn't they catch up with her and say, hey, we got you in this mess, come with us, we'll help you out? What the fuck? I would be so pissed if I were her if that was the case. But that ain't even all of it, David. This gets so much worse. This gets so much worse. So, even after half of the universe is snapped out of existence, and I'm going to assume she wasn't blipped, or she didn't. She didn't disappear. Otherwise, she would have mentioned it. Even after that happens, in the 5 years in between Infinity War and Endgame, Natasha and Steve are seemingly no longer enemies of the state. Why? Because they're living back at the Avengers compound. But Sharon is still on the run?
Mm-hmm.
She's still branded an enemy of the state? That's two. Then, when half of the of existence comes back, after Thanos has been defeated, and even after Bucky the Winter Soldier is pardoned, even after that, Sharon is still an enemy of the state. And then, she continues to be an enemy of the state. In the 5 years between Infinity War and Endgame, and even after that, because... What? Did the Avengers just forget she existed?
Yeah. And you want to know the only reason why?
Why?
It's because Steve got with Peggy. It would have been... it was already awkward because of Civil War. If she was even mentioned in Infinity War and Endgame, it just would have caused all types of problems for people. And that's really the only reason why. And honestly, though, the things that you just listed off, you kind of convinced me that she might be the power broker. Because it's oh yeah, all of those things. Yeah.
She did everything for them. She sacrificed so much for them. And then there were multiple opportunities where they could have taken her out of the squalor she was living in. And they didn't. Mm-hmm. And they forgot she was even alive, much less existed.
They could have added a line, though. It's just oh, we tried to help you when we were on the run. And they could have added a line if she was just I didn't want your guys' help or something like that. You know?
But that clearly isn't what happened, though. No, it's Sam was... When Sam ran into her, it was oh, Sharon. Oh, shit, you're alive? That's basically what the reaction he was having. It's where were you? It's bitch, where do you think I've been? I couldn't go back home after all that happened. This is the niece of Agent Peggy Carter. the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you're telling me she couldn't get a pardon for stealing a shield and some wings, but the Winter Soldier, who has been a mass murderer, a mass assassin for over 50 years, in service of Hydra, was given a pardon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but like, I almost wish this isn't what made it onto the show. I mean, because it really paints Steve and Nat as assholes. Like, hey, what the fuck? I mean, it's not just primarily on them. All of the Avengers seemingly forgot, like, oh yeah, everybody came back and yay. And it's like, oh wait. It's just weird because, like, the ongoing joke was that, oh yeah, by the time we got to Infinity War, Marvel kind of forgot about Sharon. No, it turns out the Avengers kind of forgot about Sharon.
Yeah.
I feel, and honestly, I love how bitter she was being about it, because I would be too. Like, and honestly, and she was so like done with it. Like she even threw it back at Sam's face. Like, you have to understand this whole hero thing's a joke, right? Like, look at what they did to you recently with the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. situation. I don't know. I know Bucky was like saying that she's kind of awful now. Yeah, but whose fault is it, man?
Apparently that's her in the comics. Like, kind of an awful person. Yeah, I guess so. But I almost feel like I almost wish she was more bitter in that scene then. Just because of, again, of everything you listed off. But yeah, turns out she's living life luxuriously.
She lives in Hightown.
Yeah, she steals certain art pieces and sells them to others and all that.
It's a legitimate criminal organization.
Mm-hmm. I like the joke though, of like basically Zemo, Carter, and Bucky just like knowing everything about the underground criminal world, and Sam's just like, okay, I get it. I'm not worldly like you guys. Fine. But yeah, like you said, Sharon's being a bit bitter towards them because of everything that's happened, which is understandable. But Sam convinces her to help them out, find the person who's been making the serum and all that. And in exchange for her help, Sam's going to try to get her pardon, which we'll see. I don't know. I feel like it might be easy for him, but I don't know.
Yeah, but like, why weren't they doing that? Why weren't they trying to get her a pardon before? It's like, I'm sorry, it's just so absurd. Like what Loki said, this is absurd. How do you forget this person exists?
Again, though, like I feel like this could have been fixed so easily with a couple of lines. Like maybe, like I said, like Sam could have said, "Oh, we tried helping you out when we were on a run," and she could have been like, "Nah, fuck you guys." After everything that happened with S.H.I.E.L.D., like being run over by Hydra, them just throwing me on the bus for the government, throwing her under the bus for the S.H.I.E.L.D. Like,
yeah, this is a character that's constantly been stabbed in the back, hasn't she?
So like, it could have been a reason, like, for her just to not be a government agent anymore and just stick to criminal underworld. But yeah, it's really messed up what happened to her. But yeah, but she decides to help him, and you get this little montage of them in the club. And you're just getting the most iconic scene in all of Marvel.
Yep.
Zemo dancing in the club. It's just, oh my gosh, the memes that just coming out of that, it's great. I love it.
It's the best thing ever. I mean, it's just I think one of the ones that I saw emerging the most was like introverts fist bumping at a party. It's literally what it is.
I just like the way people were like, this is the guy that split up the Avengers.
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently there was more dancing. They filmed like a lot more of him dancing.
Yeah.
Instead of just that one little fist.
And now everyone's now saying release the Zemo cut.
I mean, they could just put it on Twitter. Fuck it. But yeah, Sharon found some info, and I guess the next day they go to what are they called? Like a storage place.
A storage unit?
Storage unit, I guess.
Yeah.
But basically they found the guy who's been making the serum, and you get
Dr. Nagel, I believe.
What's his name?
Dr. Nagel.
It's a weird name.
It is. Did his voice not sound almost exactly like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to his voice.
It almost sounded like the same.
I don't know. But yeah, they found him and they had an interesting conversation. I mean, it was basically, normal scientist talk, I guess. But the thing that kind of hit Sam the most is how did he get the serum in the first place? And it turns out it was the government that like hired him first, right?
Yes. No. The first he was with, I think, technically he was with Hydra.
Oh,
first.
Yeah.
Then they fell apart, and then he was recruited by the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turned to dust.
Yeah.
And when he came back, the CIA wasn't doing this anymore, and so he went to Madripoor.
Mm-hmm. But the thing that Sam focused on was the fact that he got a sample from a certain soldier. I think just call him like a subject or something, and you could tell right away that they're probably talking about Isaiah. That's how he got his blood. They were able to recreate the serum, and yeah, like you said, it was working fine. But he got tested. CIA shut down the program, and when he came back, he just did it on his own. And he made, what did he say? Like 20 serums for it. And someone took them, and it was basically the Flag Smashers. But while they're having that conversation, though, Carter is dealing with a bunch of criminals on the outside of the lab. And wow, she kicked ass.
Wow.
Like, you could have used someone like that on the team. If only they picked her up.
Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, she's an even better fighter than I remember. But no, like she destroyed them.
Mm-hmm.
She destroyed them. Like, I don't know why I was so shocked, but I was like, I don't know. I found that to be the best action sequence yet on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like people and everything, and I think the stunt coordination was beautiful.
Yeah.
She was like single-handedly like, fuck you, and yeah. I mean, she wasn't like invincible, but man, she really did hold her own.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like the way it was shot was very different from all of MCU, honestly, because like with the movies, they use a lot of cuts and all that, but they almost make it seem, I guess, graceful in a way, like the way they fight, like it's very fluid and all that, and they do like a lot of acrobatics, especially Black Widow. But with her though, it almost seemed like she was using brute force in a way.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's
Sharon's fighting style in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I don't know, that's just the way I saw it, and I thought it was really interesting how her fighting was very different from any other movie or show. And And then what happened? But yeah, so things start to get crazy, and Zemo. No, was it the explosion first?
No. Zemo kills Nagel first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, something. Oh, yeah. I think they were trying to leave, and while Sam and Bucky were distracted, Zemo goes and kills the scientist because no more super soldiers for him. And in doing so, he also caused the explosion, and that got the attention of all the criminals, basically. So you get into a shootout, and you got this funny little exchange of Bucky and Sam. I think Bucky goes to like the left or something. He's just like, "Why are you going this way?" It's like it's like we're clearly trapped over here or something like that. It was funny. But you get a
it's
cool
in
scene.
every action movie. That was the line, yeah.
Yeah. But then you get a scene. Zemo, he's on top of one of the boxes or whatever, and he puts on the mask and starts kicking ass. And clearly, it's just like a little cool scene for the fans.
Yeah,
and putting on the mask and everything. But it was also just to show like, oh, he can actually kick ass, not just he's not
and
just smart.
we shouldn't forget the fact that he was a soldier too. So like, of course he can.
For sure. But yeah, they kicked ass. They get away basically, and then I think this is the line that kind of got people thinking Carter's the power broker. But as they went their separate ways, Carter goes to her car, and she said, I guess her assistant tells her like, "Oh, what happened?" It's just like a lot happened. I'll tell you on the way. And I don't know, just like the little exchange kind of got people theorizing like crazy again.
that
she could be the power broker. But like I said though, like what you've said, it would make sense that she'd be the power broker. I don't know why she want the super soldier serum.
To make money, maybe. I don't know.
I guess to make money, but I don't know. Who knows? It could work in a way that to show how anyone can turn. Again, it's just, I feel like they're gonna do this thing of like what's good and bad,
right?
What's right and wrong. And so with her, it could be like, you could have a good person really turn evil, or not evil, but just do some bad decisions. But
yeah, I know that was a really fun sequence though. Them trying to escape. Zemo taking the car and picking them up, and as they go their separate ways, they had a hilarious callback to another callback to Civil War. This time, so there was a sequence around the last time that we saw Sharon in that movie, where Bucky and Sam are waiting in the car for Steve, and Sam's in the front and Bucky's in the back. And I remember this elicited so much laughter in the theater. I love the sequence where Bucky is like, "Can you move your seat up?" And then Sam just so angrily, without even hesitation, says, "No." And then I recall the whole audience just erupt in laughter when this happened. And so we basically have the inverse of that here, where this time Sam's in the back seat and Bucky is in the front. And then Sam's like, "You're not going to move your seat up, are you?" And then Bucky's like, "No."
Yeah, I forgot about that. But that's cool. That's really good. Then they're back on the airplane, and Sam and Bucky just have this conversation about basically the what's it called? The legacy, I guess, of the shield, and how it's just led to all kinds of trouble. And he talks about Isaiah, how that scientist didn't even look at him like a person, didn't think of him like a person, just some test subject, some lab rat. And it leads to Sam deciding or thinking that he should just get rid of the shield altogether. Like no one should have it at all.
He says it like, how many people have to get steamrolled for a hunk of metal?
Oh, sorry, you cut off. Well,
I think he says in particular that how many people have to get steamrolled for a hunk of metal.
And Bucky, he's trying to convince him. It's like, hey, there's a importance to it, like a lot of people follow it, and I don't know. I actually can't remember the exact words.
Well, he said basically, well, before you destroy it, I'm gonna take it from Walker. More along the same lines, though, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know about that decision for Sam. Like, I mean, anything with like any powerful symbol must have some downfalls to it, I guess, in a way. But I don't know. Maybe the lesson could be just, the people who hold it has to uphold in a really high standard.
Yeah, I don't know where that particular idea is gonna go through, because it is an evolution of sorts, like where he basically has come to the idea, well, he regrets handing the shield over to the American government, but now he's like almost at the complete reversal of what he was saying in the first episode, where he first said, like, look, this may be the best symbol there ever was, and then Sam's now at the point where, you know what, maybe it's not worth having a symbol this great if it's going to result in this many people just being destroyed. I think that's the rationale he's using. And I'm not entirely sure where this is going, but I mean, I assume the ending is going to come to him like coming full circle and accepting the shield and, the mantle of the new Cap, but we'll have to see where that goes. But you're right, it was a very interesting conversation. Obviously, he feels very bad about this whole situation, including not just Isaiah, but then also Sharon, who was just caught in the crossfire just for delivering that shield to them. So, yeah, it's an interesting thread. I wonder how that's going to be resolved.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're in the plane, and what do we see next?
Well, when they talked to the scientist guy, they got a name of the red hair chick.
What red hair? They knew her name already. Carly Morgenthau. You mean the other person that died that Carly was close to, that we saw earlier in the episode?
Yeah. My bad. Yeah, so they got the name of that person, and I'm guessing it cut to the Flag Smashers people, and basically they took some supplies from a base or from somewhere.
I have to assume it was a facility that was being used by the Global Repatriation Council. And they say that there was a bunch of supplies in there, supplies that had been sitting that people needed. Right?
Yeah. And so they take it, and in the process... Oh, wow, I completely forgot about a scene. It was the red-haired girl having a conversation with one of her partners, I guess. I can't remember much of it. It
was kind of... Well, yeah, I mean, they weren't the most memorable of sequences. They kind of just happened intermittently throughout. But from that sequence, she and her friend kind of revealed that they were, that they went to Madripoor, they stole the vials, and then they, yeah. I think that's about all that happened.
I know they talked about when they took the serum.
Her wanting to be a teacher or something like that.
Yeah. And then they talked about how when they took the serum, how they both felt.
Yeah. There's a hilarious thing I saw. We talk about Grace Randolph a lot on this show. There was this hilarious thing I saw in her video today where she was recapping the events of the episode. So in that sequence, when Carly is talking to them, to him. And he's like, well, I always thought I was going to be a teacher and everything. And then later on in the episode, when, they have those hostages and then she blows them up, and then she says to him, we had no choice. This is like the only language they understand. And then Randolph was like, I guess she did become a teacher after all. Because she's teaching.
Okay. Wow.
I know, it was stupid, but it was like pretty fucked up too. Yeah, this whole situation is really complicated because look, Carly Morgenthau is a person. It's because we haven't really seen the things that she's talking about that maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect. But from what I gather, to the place that they've looted and have taken those hostages who they would then murder, seemingly unbeknownst to the rest of the Flag Smashers, she's just made this unilateral decision to just kill them. So there's that. But so based in the language that was in passing, the people who came, there are large pockets of people who came back after the blip that are displaced. They do mention this in the beginning of Spider-Man Far From Home, people who have been displaced because of the blip. And she is saying that the people who disappeared for 5 years and came back, they've been put in camps. Camps, people. Like, do I have to remind everyone of the reputation that labor camps have, or concentration camps? They're not I mean, I don't know of their modern day concentration camps, but from Carly Morgenthau's perspective, the conditions are so deplorable in these camps that the person who she was close to earlier in the episode died as a result of being in those camps. Mm-hmm. She got tuberculosis because she was in those camps, and because those camps were severely understaffed and undersupplied, which is why, as we saw in the last episode, that they were stealing medicine to deliver for the people in the camps, which would then reinforce the idea for why they're known as Robin Hood to these people. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of changes a couple of things here, because that is a noble cause. That is, until it gets to the very end where she just unilaterally becomes a terrorist and blows people up with a bomb. And then she was like, this is the only language they understand. I'm really curious to see how that's going to go over with some of the other Flag Smashers, because you made this point last week, like, hey, we the jury's still out, because to my recollection we haven't seen them kill anyone yet, so we have to see where this goes. And well, we saw where it went. Yeah,
no, I mentioned that, like, I thought it was weird during the fight in the trucks that they were just holding on to Bucky. Like, they weren't really trying to, like, throw him off or anything. So it kind of got me thinking, like, oh, I don't think they're trying to kill anyone for their cause. And so this, at the end of this episode, kind of reaffirms it, that, yeah, they're not trying to kill anyone until Carly lost, I guess, I don't know, some friend of hers or maybe a relative.
It seems like this death kind of set her off the deep end, because, I mean, the morning, look, she was doing all of this for an issue that she believed in. It just makes it difficult, because, like, her reasons are technically well-founded, because, and she even says to them, the people who she would eventually murder, which isn't okay, obviously, but she says, like, this was sitting here for months. It wasn't being used. Why? What is going on? So, and you know what? I'm having a hard time remembering if the people who are in camps are the ones who didn't disappear, or they're the ones who did disappear. Because she says in the last episode that, like, the people who were around the entire time are now the ones being neglected.
It could be a combination of both, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Some people who can't get their homes back will just be in the camp. Some people who got kicked out because someone came back, went to the camps. So, I don't know. I think it could be both. I think that's fine. But yeah, after that, I think they try looking for her. They're around that area. And then when they go inside a building, Bucky is like, I'll stay behind, catch up. And then he goes to the side and sees this little bead on the floor. And I was like, oh my God, no way. And
you knew what that was immediately? Because I was confused until they revealed what it was.
Oh, no, I knew what it was right away. And the whole time, I did think, oh my gosh, there's no way he's gonna be in this, is he? That can't be. They didn't shoot this before. And so, I thought Black Panther might show up, but yeah. So I was running through my mind, did they shoot this before his death or what? But no, that wasn't the case. It was I don't know her name, but it's the woman that we see in Civil War, the one that goes, "Move or you will be moved."
Yeah, I had her name here. She also was in Black Panther and Infinity War.
Yeah.
Florence Kazumba is the actor's name, and the character's name is Ayo.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, but we see her and she says something like, "Where's Zemo?" Or I think it's just that it's like, "Where's Zemo?" I don't know.
Basically, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the end of the episode, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty big cliffhanger right there. But yeah, basically, I'm hoping this is the thing that really kicks off the plot a lot faster now. They have to, get away from the what are their names? Dora. What's that group called? The Warrior
Flag
Women?
Smashers?
No, the Warrior Women in
Oh, I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the name is.
Dora Milaje?
Something like that, yes.
Okay.
It sounds very similar to that, yeah. Yeah, that won't be easy getting away from them.
Oh, no. I remember that part in Black Panther. It's just two women. It's like, and he's just like, open the door. It's like, are you sure? It's like, you're not going to knock twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, I hope they kind of kickstart the plot a lot faster, trying to get away from them, trying to catch up with the Flag Smashers. I don't know. This could lead to a huge fucking battle of the Dora Milaje versus the Flag Smashers or something.
Yeah, their presence is not something I expected.
Yeah.
So that kind of opens up a whole new can of worms, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Where this goes. It's going to be interesting. But yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, no. Like I said, it was really fun. That action sequence with Carter was honestly one of my favorites so far of the show.
Yeah.
And everything with Zemo was just great. Oh my gosh, she was so hilarious. And I love how, the entire time, you can tell he's being a jokester, but he says it in almost a serious tone that he's just kind of what's up with you, man?
Yeah. Okay, a couple of things to go over before we close. Some lingering thoughts, some takes of the week. Emily Van Camp, who plays Sharon Carter, was asked about her kiss with Captain America in Civil War. we've long criticized on this channel how that storyline just went nowhere. And this is what she said. I mean, look, you have to laugh. Some of these storylines play and some of them don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost as if Kevin Feige doesn't really have a plan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But don't worry, cool. That'll never be brought up again.
Yeah.
That'll never be brought up. There were some pretty interesting takes. I have to say, there have been a contingent of critics who have not enjoyed the show. And for reasons that I am not really understanding. You have Caroline's Side here from AV Club. She says, every episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier feels like a pilot for a different, not very good series.
No.
I don't get that. I want to say her name is Michelle. I'm going to say Michelle Schick from Hypable. Just flat out says, I just don't think I'm quite vibing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And this is somebody who really enjoyed WandaVision and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from her material that I've read. So that's interesting. Eric Goldman from Fandom. Some good moments, but overall, Falcon and the Winter Soldier fell off and unfocused this week. We're now halfway through, so hopefully all the plot threads begin to coalesce ASAP. Matt Goldberg from Collider. Well, I guess they can't all be WandaVision.
I don't like people comparing it to WandaVision.
Neither do I.
I think I've said this before. Like, they're completely different shows. You really shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Salagna. I think it's Salagna or Salagna. Mizra from AV Club said this was the weakest episode yet, and she says in her review, what is this episode about exactly? On its face, Power Brokers seems to be about gathering intel on the Super Soldier Serum and the Flag Smashers, and even expanding Sam and Bucky's universe of associates. But it seems most interested in playing into action movie tropes more than anything else. And you know what? It fails. The whole episode, I was just thinking of the times I've seen better versions of each of these scenes. The scene in the club makes me think of the far better casino scene in Black Panther. Or maybe it's the editing. The way the snake cocktail scene was cut together made me feel like we were trying to get a laugh out of the audience. But the joke fell flat for me. Damn, she went off. After Selby is murdered, Sharon's reintroduction to our characters even feels like a failure of writing. In fact, this whole episode had some strange characterization. I feel that's the biggest problem with Power Broker. Even little moments, like Walker yelling to the cafe owner in Germany, "Do you know who I am?" while Carly kills several people with a car bomb with a real blasé attitude, feel extremely out of sync with last week's episode. Finally, the worst aspect of the episode is how it leaves the best part of the show in the lurch. Sam and Bucky barely speak to each other or check in with their plans. Sam does ask Bucky several times if he's okay, but Bucky does not seem to even know how to reply. And even when Bucky asks him, Sam tells him he is overwhelmed by the people that have been caught in the crossfire, Sharon and Isaiah especially. And while he does take back his decision to give up the shield, he feels even more that he should have destroyed it. Okay. It was a bit of a rant, but
yeah. I don't know. The thing with what was it, Carly and U.S. Agent? What were her exact words? It was like
Well, she was saying that they fell off this week. That it just kind of like they went.
Oh, it seemed like a bit of a jump.
Rails. Yeah.
I disagree with that. The thing with U.S. Agent, it makes perfect sense. His reaction to it. Being spit on. I mean, yeah. It seems perfectly normal. The thing with Carly, I mean, I guess you could say it's a bit of a jump, but at least they took the time to kind of like tell you, like, give you reason as to why she did what she did. But yeah.
I have to say, I shared all of what I just said with Peter, this particular article, and his response was hilarious. He said, "I genuinely wonder what the world will be when it ends." Just seemingly at a loss for words. One other thing here, by Bleeding Cool. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is chock full of idiot ball writing. This is what they say. In case you were wondering, the term idiot ball was turned by the TV series writers' rooms in Hollywood. It's about when a character in a story is written to do something staggeringly stupid that no one in real life would usually do out of just sheer common sense, in order for the rest of the plot to happen. A common refrain amongst the writing staff while breaking the story for an episode is, who is going to carry the idiot ball this time? This is not to say that the writers are stupid or think the audiences are stupid. It's that the pressures of deadlines to have scripts ready for production can force some writers' rooms to cut corners creatively in order to get the show in the can. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier scripts might be another casualty of production pressures. Why does Sam Wilson keep his damn smartphone turned on when he's on high-risk undercover operation? Anyone in his line of business would have known not to do that or have it on silent. All this so his cover can be blown when his sister calls to nag him about the bank loan and all the shooting and explosions can start. Characters in thrillers keeping their phones on or ignoring calls are the laziest plot beats in thrillers now and the cheapest shortcut for writers to create tension in TV shows these days. Why was Sharon Carter hung out to dry and left live on the run as an enemy of the state when Bucky got a pardon for the scores of people he'd murdered since the start of the Cold War? All she ever did was give Steve Rogers information about Bucky's location back in Captain America Civil War. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and even Sam's admission of it does not hand-wave it away. It's another instance of, because we say so, from the writer's room. Now Madripoor is in the MCU, only without racist, stereotypical Asian bad guys. The MCU's version of Madripoor doesn't seem to have any evil, stereotypical Asians in it. Who knows if the producers realized the comic book version was too racist and decided against having Asian stereotypes, or if the fact that they were shooting in Eastern Europe meant there literally weren't any Asians around to cast. Instead, the MCU version is full of swarthy Eastern Europeans in tattoos and body piercings and black dudes wearing leather, which is a different kind of racist. And the place still doesn't make any sense other than as a setting for having chases, gunfights, and big explosions in. The MCU is a Marvel version of everything movies and now TV. That there are so much idiot ball writing and just stuff that makes no sense just means The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is really just another TV show after all. I'm at a loss of words, David. What do you have to say about all this?
I said about that scene with the phone. I didn't like it either. I feel like they could have done something better. But I like the outcome of it. It was pretty funny. His exchange with his sister and all that. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. The whole racism thing. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't have some pretty interesting takes, would it? Before we leave, there was something I had neglected to mention. So, Gemma Simmons, the character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., portrayed by Elizabeth Henstridge, I had shared with you some breadcrumbs that some fans were putting together about a cameo for the Spider-Man No Way Home, I believe it's called, Spider-Man 3. And let's see if I can piece this all back together. This whole thing happened all because Elizabeth Henstridge was inadvertently in Atlanta filming something for one day and one day only, because she got on the plane and left the next day, the same day that it was the final day of production for Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, you could say that was something else that she was filming. Well, she is filming other projects, but they don't happen to be filming there. That's one of the things that these people are saying. The other aspect happens to be that she seems to be referring to a special movie she's in her bio, I believe. And yeah, so I guess the speculation is that she would make a cameo, but why would she make a cameo? Mm-hmm. Why would that fit? Evidently, there is some kind of connection because she did voice work for Agent Simmons in the Spider-Man animated series, one of the recent ones that was on Disney XD, I believe. And since this is a movie that is introducing the multiverse and is basically collecting as much multiverse material from the previous Spider-Man works as possible, since of course there is pretty rampant speculation that Garfield and Maguire are in this movie, as well as other actors as well. This seemingly fits. Although, I mean, I have no reason to believe this has actually happened. She could have just been in Atlanta for a day and most likely nothing happened. Mm-hmm. But if she did film something for that movie, the connections that we've made so far would make sense. And if this is the case, then as you and I speculated, as far as the other reports that are out there of Clark Gregg and Chloe Bennett being reintroduced in Secret Invasion, and us wondering how that would even happen, well, this seemingly, as you put it, I think, would indicate that if and when S.H.I.E.L.D. characters would ever be reused in the MCU, and if this is the beginning of that, then this would seemingly confirm multiverse is how they explain away the inconsistencies. Again, this is just plain old theorizing that kind of verges on conspiracy theories, really. When I shared this with you, what did you think about all this?
I mean, it's like any other news. I'll believe it when I see it. Really.
As you should, and as everyone listening should. Mm-hmm. I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was a fun theory.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree that it is a fun theory. I was the one that said that, she could be the bridge between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the MCU films to be the multiverse type of thing. But also, I don't know. I don't know what else what I said, actually. But yeah, I basically just said that she could bring up the multiverse for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. And I don't know. Again, it's just news that I'll believe when I see.
Yeah. But how cool would it be if that actually happened, though?
I mean, I would be happy, especially for her. Like, I think,
yeah.
I don't know if the exchange between her and Peter, I think it'd be funny.
It would be. Well, David, I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Thank you all for listening to this episode. Again, we'll be back next week for the review for episode 4. And don't miss out Peter and I's conversation on the box office, as well as all of the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be YouTube, CastBox, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Google, every single Sunday and sometimes on Thursdays. And we'll see you next time. Stay under the spotlight. Bye-bye.
Bye.